I'll second it.
And seconded by Carly. Great, thank you. Any discussion at all? Crystal, thanks for adding that part. I just thought that was important, that he see that, we were responding to him. Okay, all in favor of accepting? Opposed? Wonderful, thank you. Secretary's report is accepted. Treasurer's report.
Yes, so let's see. Our general fund is the same as last month, which is $4,000.50. And our historical gift, there's a $500 difference from last month. So this month we're at $7,704.97. And that is takes in consideration the $500 payment that we paid out to Bruce Cordes for his work on the notebooks and all of the work that he did at the old burying ground. And that's it.
Okay, wonderful. Any questions for Carly on the treasurer's report? No? Excellent. Great. I'm glad to see that has been deducted. Hopefully Bruce has received that already. I talked to him today, and he is doing more work to trying to clear up the inventory. He's finding that there are quite a few people whose graves were moved. I thought was really interesting, to Pine Hill when Pine Hill opened. However, the bodies weren't moved, just the name on the stone, and the stones were moved. So he is finding that the bodies are probably, many of them, still there. And he learned that from Dale Dixon, that when, Crystal, did you have a question?
I'm just curious, are there inventories for other cemeteries, or?
That's his other question, is we're going to start looking into that. We don't, right now, it's kind of like what he found with this, piecemeal and putting things together. But yeah, it would be really interesting to know. And he's seen that names are on two inventories, one for Pine Hill and one for, that's where this began, is he was seeing, like, if the wife died and she was buried at the old burying ground, then when the husband died and Pine Hill was open, the husband would be up there. His name would be in the old burying ground, but also be up there. And then they might move the wife's name up there. So even though her body would still be at old burying ground. So it just continues to get more and more complicated. Oh, this is Nick Aida, who is joining us. For those of you, hi, Nick.
Hello.
Hello. For those of you who don't know Nick, he is the head of the history department at Westfield State, and he is going to sit in and listen in with us tonight. So welcome. Appreciate that. We just started the meeting, Nick, and we're just talking about, we're in the treasurer's report and Bruce Cordes. So any other questions for treasurer's report? No? Okay. I did not get to City Hall to see if we have any mail, but I don't think there was any, so we can move on for that. We have one bit of housekeeping that we need to just discuss before we get into the rest of the meeting. I don't know if any of you saw the paper. Carly brought this to my attention. We did not actually get the Westfield News today, so a neighbor gave this to me. But City Council has a rule that they have a 15-minute public participation time. And in that time, each person gets 3 minutes to speak. So even though we're not bound by that, they kind of ask that commissions follow that. And I had talked to Mike about being our timer. So when we do have public participation, we're going to try to stick to that, the 15 minutes and 3 minutes per person. We can vote to extend the 3 minutes if we want to, but we do have that 3-minute time limit to kind of help us stay on track. So any discussion on that or any questions? It's funny, it's because it's as in the paper said, people thought it was a 30-minute rule, but it's actually 15 minutes for public participation. So just to kind of keep control of our meetings and not let them get railroaded. So, which is kind of nice. So thank you, Mike, for agreeing to do that. All right, old business. Preservation Award date. We have a date. It's Tuesday, February 22nd at 4 o'clock. Can everybody make that at City Hall? Is there anyone who can't make it? Oh, wonderful. Good. I've checked with the mayor, I've checked with Bruce, I've checked with Jean, and it works for all of them. The plaques will be in by then. Did everyone have a chance to look at the plaques that I sent you? Any questions, any suggestions? They pretty much follow what we did last time. I just changed the names. So we will present both of those. So
I think it looks, they both look great, Cindy, and thank you so
Okay.
much for doing that. Appreciate it.
yeah, much easier this time since we had this. I did them 2 years ago. So so that's great. So that we'll be presenting those and the mayor will be doing that. So I'll send out a reminder beforehand, but February 22nd, 4:00 in the mayor's office. And the mayor's actually pretty excited. He didn't realize he had to do this. So that will be very nice. The other thought I had too is I don't think Bob Brown has ever been recognized for preservation award. So he's certainly someone that we need to think about because he certainly has added so much as well. So just a thought, just to keep in the back of our minds for next time. And we did not give a 2021 award, so that's why we're giving 2 awards this year. Slovak Hall update. Who would like to talk about that? Just to, I know you all were there and I appreciate that. Crystal or Cindy, do you want to speak about it or what your thoughts were on the Slovak Hall update?
I just thought it was neat. I think I was in there once. I vaguely remember it, but I was not aware of the upstairs. I was not aware of the whole history of it, how it was kind of, I mean, I know all little communities had their own little hall that they went to, but I just wasn't aware that that's what the purpose of that was and just the history behind it. The upstairs was so neat though.
Wasn't it?
I had no clue that that was up there. And the fact
No.
that they still have like the old wooden auditorium chairs and the background there with, we were trying to figure out some of the businesses. No one's even, I mean, I never heard of, I've heard
Up on the
of people,
stage?
but up on stage, yeah. And
Yeah.
the phone numbers, that's how far back they go. But
I know where the 5-digit phone numbers. Yeah.
and I liked it too how they were talking about how some of them have been members since they were teenagers and they're still trying to keep it going and trying to keep it with the younger generation and they're having a hard time with that. But
Yeah.
I just, yeah.
So what we'll need to do at our next meeting is vote that we value this, and actually we can vote tonight if we even want to, but that we value this as a historic monument that needs to be preserved. So since we all were there, does anyone want to make a motion? Just so, and this is so that they can apply for the preservation grant. They will not be able to apply for it until April, which is the next time the Community Preservation Commission meets. But we just will need to take a vote. And if we think we're ready, we can vote on it tonight since it is on our agenda. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I could make a motion to designate the hall a historic of significance.
To the city. Perfect. That's a great way of saying it. Is there a second to that? Carly, second? Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, they will be asking for funding because generally what this does is funds the facade of the building. So we'll be helping with the outside of the building. The question I had, is there a sign anywhere that says Slovak Hall? When you drive by, where was it, Crystal? I didn't see it.
Way up high on the building.
Is it on the front or on the back where we parked?
Yeah, on the front.
It is, okay. And when I'm driving by, I mean, my eyes are on the road, but you don't see it clearly when you drive by. So maybe we can even get a better sign, more clearly read sign. So, okay. So all in favor of deeming it of historic significance, raise your hand. Okay. Anyone opposed? Great. It passes. I will write that up and just have that in our minute, or you'll have that in a minute so I can write it up. So for the community preservation. Excellent. All right. Any other old business for tonight?
Well, I could just comment on the Slovak Hall.
Sure.
It is kind of this perfect test of the problems of these type of buildings when the organization isn't what it was, and yet they own this great building. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
You're really glitchy, so I think we all caught that, but no, you're right. Hopefully, I'd like to see their plan as well. And they will have to present that to the Community Preservation Commission when they request funding. So we'll see what they have in mind. Okay.
Yeah. I also keep thinking too, if there was ever a place for a historic museum, that might be a good one if they ever decide to change their mission, because they've already got a lot of the history kind of built in.
Absolutely. I think that was brought up that night too. And they kind of went, oh my gosh, that'd be an undertaking, but I think that's great. Plus, that would be an asset to the city to be a museum. So the commission would be more likely to give them the funding. So good. I'm just glad that they're trying to do it. I'm thrilled that it's not another building that we're going to lose. So that's wonderful that they have the interest. Good. Any other discussion on that? Great. Okay, new business. Before we start talking about that, Kathy, would you talk about your radio show?
Am I on or am I muted?
Yes, you are. No, you're not muted.
Yes, we were fortunate enough to have Cindy and Carly come in and interview for WCPC Channel 15, Westfield Community Programming Channel. And I'm so pleased to say that they both did an excellent job. They filled us in on information on the cemetery, and then we talked a little bit about the schoolhouses. So all in all, I think it was a great broadcast, and I thank both of you for being willing to come in and be volunteers, not victims, volunteers. And you did a great job, and I hope we can get you back on again sometime. Thank you.
Thank you.
And-
or other people from the commission as well. Yeah.
If anyone else here on the commission has any interest in coming in and doing anything, just let us know. In addition to the Ken's Den that we were doing, we also have Harry Rock, and he has a lot of things that he has up for discussion. So he is also always open to any of you coming in to discuss anything you'd like to. So there you have it.
We can talk for as long as you need us to talk. And as Carly can attest to, the time flies by. Oh my gosh, that hour was gone in a heartbeat. So thank you, Kathy, for having us on. For all your listeners, we appreciated it. So, okay, so that was the radio show. I'm going to skip to the new projects before we talk about the May meeting date. I just came from a 350th meeting, and they are giving us $2,500 more for more virtual tours. So we can be thinking about what we'd like to do. I think they've been very well received. I just got the numbers of, if you're interested, of how many people have looked at them. The churches, the immigrant one has 858 views, City Hall, 852, the Drum Factory, 2,256, Dewey House, 2,343, the Schoolhouse, which didn't really even have any audio, 2,962, Smith Museum, which is in the Athenaeum, 2,151, and the Walking Tour, 3,271. That's the one of downtown, the monuments. So that's up, and he said that's as of today. So we've had a lot of people with these, so I think there's an interest. They're on 3 different city websites now, so that's great. I can get them at the Athenaeum or City Hall or the school department. So maybe we need to put another plug on Facebook or any kind of other social media just to keep it fresh in people's minds. But ideas for new tours. Any thoughts right now? I know we've talked about industries of Westfield.
What about our cemeteries? Like
Cemeteries, yeah.
Go out and film, the Owens District on East Mountain Road, and go out to
I love it.
Road, and I don't know. I think a lot of people find the cemeteries to be quite interesting, and I know folks are always inquiring about, well, where's this one? Where's that one? So that might be something to think about.
Yeah. I know we had talked about maybe something with the whips. And Nick, can we just ask, if you can hear us, can we ask you, you're doing some work with the whip company now, aren't you?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to remain unobtrusive.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
So yeah, Carol Martin came to the department a number of years ago, and we didn't get anything off the ground. That would have been probably in 2011 or 12 or something like that. But we started meeting. She and I started meeting in December, and we've had 4 meetings now, 3 in person, one on the phone, and then we have another one scheduled for February 1st. Sorry, February 1st. So in effect, one of the things that we're trying to do is get some students who are interested in public history work to go in and do I'm envisioning 2 different tasks immediately. One would be some organization of the business records that are up in the attic. So that's a mixture of stuff ranging from the Cargill company, obviously, but also I didn't know this, but there's a lot of stuff related to a watch company that had rented space in the building. Whether or not some of the business records relate to that or not, I don't know. But there is stuff just simply to go through and organize. The other thing I could see that could be effective would be to, as a tie-in to the point you just raised about walking tours in the industrial business here in Westfield, is to get students. We've had a number of students work in different places. So some of them have done work at the Athenaeum. Some of them have done work at Sturbridge Village, at the basketball museum, and so on and so forth. But anyway, get them to work on some similar projects that MJ Bull had students working on from the geography department related to the Columbia Greenway. So it seems like inserting, Q code information, as we've done in other places in town, would make sense for accessing, locations, even if the buildings aren't extant any longer. That would still be an interesting piece that a student could help develop, and in association, obviously with Cargill. And then the third thing would be just to kind of rework the lower level, of the space into. It's got this like kind of potential here for certain kinds of exhibitry, and can that get advanced? Now that's like, everything I just described is, it's like a 5 to 7 year project, but that's fine. We have a soon to be graduate student who is very interested in doing museum work and public history work. And so I'm trying to set it up so that he will end up being one of the first people to do some of that entry work there.
Wow, that's fabulous. Great.
Well, if it works, it's fabulous. We'll see.
As of your last meeting with Carol,
Mhm.
Are they making any headway to get the museum open?
Yeah, so there's the timetable for getting. There's something on the first level that needs to be cleared up and cleaned up, and then the other thing on her agenda is to get on the, I guess it would be the south side of the building, to get some folks in to look at the possibility of putting in accessible like what used to be there. If you've looked at old photographs of the building, there used to be kind of a ramp, on that
Right.
side. That wasn't ADA accessible, but from a historic perspective, she felt like that was the logical place to make the attempt to put that in. Obviously, it would be a modern ramp and so on. So that would deal with one issue there. And again, at least get people in on the first floor. And then probably something like other sites end up doing, providing, digital access to floors 2 and 3, given that they won't be able to put in, any ADA thing there. So we talked a little bit about that. And then we talked about creating there's a space that has to be cleared on that first floor, and made, oh my gosh, I've just forgotten the word here. climate controlled. There we go. Climate controlled. So a space that has to be made climate controlled. And I don't know. These are just initial conversations. It felt like those were things that could potentially in the next 9 to 12 months actually begin to get happening.
Yeah.
But that's
Does she still have the funding? Any funding for the ramp? I thought the ramp was going to be included in the 750,000.
I
she
think
got from the
ultimately it
city?
is. I think at this point they're looking at the positioning and then
Okay.
and then redoing access into because they have to redo the door as well that it would come in on. Or what isn't a door. What was a door needs to be a door again, all that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I have assiduously avoided any conversation about money with her thus far. We've only been talking about what would need to happen and where in some ways we could help, by providing at least some expertise and labor on, on just organizing stuff.
Okay.
And I think we could make some inroads into the first floor. I would like to. There was some other thing that I'm not remembering now from our last meeting because I don't have the notes in front of me. But that
the bathroom, the handicap bathroom. Did that get finished?
That wasn't it.
Okay.
It was something about a potential event. But I can't remember the date or what it was. But I'll see her next week, so
Okay.
I'll figure.
Was this a fundraiser? You mean a fundraiser event?
Well, I don't even remember if it was that or it was just an attempt to get kind of the word out and get something going there. I don't even want to speak out of turn about it until I talk to her again. But
okay, I know she was going to Boston to try to work with the tax issue. So I don't know if she's.
Yeah, we skirted around that issue, although I know about it. And then the other issue we focused on in the initial 2 meetings was working on developing a National Endowment for the Humanities grant that's kind of associated with the ones that have been run in the Armory in Springfield. This would be, and Mike's probably familiar with these as actually Cindy and Carly, you might be as well. Crystal might be too, now that I'm thinking about this out loud. And this is the Landmark series from the NEH. So the Landmark grants, visit certain kinds of industrial spaces or art spaces or what have you in the history of the United States. And then they invite educators, K through 12, to work on those issues at the site. And so those kinds of grants typically require the cooperation of both a university and the site itself. Or, in the case of the one at the Armory, it could do it on its own, but that's, it's a National Historic Site, so that's like a whole other level.
Right.
So I kind of steered her that way a little bit. She has some interest in, in getting programming associated with it. And I was sort of pointing out that this is what's nice about the Landmark program is it's a week-long program for the teachers, but it's recurring. And so when these run each summer, they run typically for at least 2 weeks out of the summer, not necessarily back to back, and with different groups of teachers. And then you can apply and have it multiple times. So it's an infusion, of money that helps develop the programming, but also helps then develop whatever it might be, permanent exhibit space, that kind of thing. My consternation in involving the university at all is not one I have 2 pressures, just so people understand our end. Like, I've got a president and a vice president of academic affairs who are really excited about the idea of us getting more actively involved in the town and so on. And I would agree with that strategy. And then I have a grants administrator on campus who is still bitter about the fact that they never got any of the money from the Teaching American History grant funds. So, which
Really?
legally they couldn't get access to, I want to point out, because those were designed specifically for school districts, but whatever. Anyway, they're still mad about this. And so grants that come through these days, and look, universities do this. I don't like it necessarily, but grant administrators typically will write these things in such a manner that a certain amount of the grant money comes off the top to go for, overhead into the costs of the university. So I'm a little leery about. I just have to have a conversation with the administration and explain, like, this is a case where, the greater good needs to get us not doing that. We need to pour the money in, just like the TAH has worked. We need to pour the money into the money for the educators and for the community resource, not into alleged overhead when they got to pay me anyway. So I don't know. It's not like I get a deferred bit of money, if we end up getting a grant. I may lose that battle with the grant administrator, so I'm probably going to skip that person and go right to the vice president of academic affairs and everything else.
And if we can help at all, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the conversation really began, was about these landmark pieces, and then I sort of navigated back to these conversations we had about 10 years ago now, to try to start to have that bit again. There's some, I'm hopeful that we have the right kind of student, I think, who can help out with some aspects. And then it's just a matter of navigating the physical space and the skill set needed by the interns to do the work.
Great. I think I had mentioned to you that we have batted around the idea for a year or two now of possibly, in our attempt to save the one-room schoolhouse, of moving it down next to the whip company.
Yeah.
And having a kind of like a go-to destination of several things down there. Of course, the candle factory is right across the street. So I don't know if you've put any thought into that, if that you think would work or would help. Should we leave the school where it is? And of course, there's a connection with the college, with the school as well, the one-room schoolhouse.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're going to need to.
Moving. I'm always leery of moving something.
Yeah. We are too.
Partially for the building itself, obviously, but also because, for better or worse, place matters, right? So the space where it is does kind of matter. I get the logic of, when you and I talked about it last week, I understand the logic behind it, because in a way you kind of want you want a central space where people could, meet and so on. I think, what struck me, Cindy, I don't know if this is even possible, but after we had talked, I started thinking about how, if any of you have been to Walden Pond in Concord, one of the things you notice that they've done there is, so they have a reconstruction of Thoreau's cabin. They don't have, obviously, the real cabin.
Right.
And that's a whole other thing anyway, because he was a stone's throw away from his aunt's place, whatever. Anyway, let's not get into whether Thoreau was actually, living in the woods or not. But the point is, the cabin, the recreation is a very nice kind of intro, into some of the concepts of transcendentalism and about Thoreau in general, as well as about the space. And so it struck me, I wondered, is there any mileage in the idea of like creating a one-room schoolhouse, if you will, a recreation of one, in that space, and using that instead as kind of a symbolic gathering space and maybe Q code space or whatever, could be less expensive, obviously, than having to, move the other one.
Yeah, good idea.
And it just struck me that, it doesn't work quite as well for us. And I think both you and and Carly had been here, but it doesn't work as well for us as it does in downtown Boston, where the African American schoolhouse is up behind the State House. Because that building, even though it had to be rebuilt and everything else, and the church connected there, it had to be redone and everything. But because it existed there, and because it still existed there, they didn't have to go through this process that you're talking about, in terms of moving something.
Mm-hmm.
And where it is, where the building that we're talking about here now is, seems like it's equally important to exist there.
Sure.
And have a certain kind of programming available, during certain seasons or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
In existence. I don't know. The other thing that struck me is, so I grew up in Sudbury, Massachusetts, and in that town, long before I was born, in the 1930s, Henry Ford started recreating certain things. He bought the Wayside Inn, which was an old inn going back to the 1700s, and he refurbished it. He also then had a grist mill, like a recreation grist mill built, and a church and a one-room schoolhouse, essentially trying to recreate like this little country corner, if you will, right, of a New England community. And for better or worse, that was very appealing. A lot of people did stuff there. It's sort of ingrained in my head about this space, none of which was real, right? except for the inn. And even the inn had gone through massive refurbishment after the Ford family sold it. So, that has value as well, and can work, and is maybe a little bit more affordable. So I guess I did think about it a lot after you told me.
Yes, you did.
So,
Very good. Thank you.
sorry.
Yeah, because we need to move. We need to do something on this, and it's been a dilemma. There's the sentimental attachment, of course, of where it is, but it's so rural and so far out there, and so little space. Is it really feasible to expect large groups to be able to use it? We've gone back and forth. We can make it work, but legally, I don't know if we can. We've kind of hit roadblocks. Just trying to save and move the whip company project along. Would it help to have something else next to it to kind of attract funding, attract attention, make it a go-to destination? So these are conversations we can continue to have, but we value your input on this because we need to do something. Anyone else have anything that they want to add or ask, or no? I think we'll be having continuing conversations about this though. So thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So for new projects, virtual tours, something with the whip company or the schoolhouse, anybody else have any ideas for other projects for 2022?
Cindy, were we thinking about moving out into some of the other cemeteries to do some work?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm still thinking, I just love that Owen District Cemetery on East Mountain Road. If we could work on that stone wall, or even get in there and straighten and clean some stones.
Yeah, I think, did we talk about that last meeting, that as soon as the weather is nice,
Right.
Yeah, we would love to plan more cleaning days. And Nick, I know you were a part of our cleaning day last time. Thank you for that. Did you end up getting poison ivy, by the way?
No.
You didn't? Okay.
No, and I used to be highly allergic, but I got a horrible case in 1989, and I haven't had it since.
Oh, good.
So
I was so worried about you because I did get it from that day.
Oh,
and
you
I
did?
thought I got it over where you were working. So
Yeah.
that's good to know.
It wasn't great over there, I will say.
No, you were a trooper. Thank you for that. But yeah, no, I'm glad you didn't. Maybe I got it from my own yard, but I'm glad you didn't get it. So, okay, great. Well, we've got a lot to work on here. So that's wonderful. May meeting, as you can see from the agenda, these dates are all on the city schedule. May 16th, both Carly and I will not be here. Her son and my son are getting married that weekend and the weekend after. So we will be gone to weddings. I hate to cancel a meeting, but I would need the 5 of you to run the meeting and handle it. So what are your thoughts on that? Anybody want to run the meeting?
I'm fine with whatever. We can reschedule. We can run it without you.
Okay.
Whatever the majority-
Rescheduling is just tough because we're both be gone for quite a bit of time. Carly's son's wedding is that weekend, and then my son's wedding is the next weekend, and one is in St. Louis and one's in California. So we'll be gone, and and then you run into Memorial Day. So to reschedule is going to be tough. I'd like to have the meeting continue just so we can say we had a meeting, but I would need all of you to take over. So we can discuss this more the closer we certainly don't have to decide tonight. So just keep that in mind, that our May meeting, we will not be here. Okay. And go ahead.
I also noticed that the June meeting is on June 20th.
Yeah.
And Juneteenth, is going to be the Sunday. So I assume it's going to be observed on Monday. I don't know if City Hall will even be open on that day. Just putting that out.
Interesting. Is that Juneteenth is now a national holiday?
I don't quote me 100% on that. I remember seeing it. Oh, I got to keep my eye on that, and didn't.
Oh, interesting. So we won't be able to have a meeting that day, Pete, you're saying? Boy, I'm out of the loop. I hadn't heard about that at all. Well, I mean, we can either, if that Monday works, great. If not, then we'll have to move it to the 27th. So, which I know is tough because some of you are gone by then, right? When's the last day of school? We know? I'm sure before then, right? Long before then. So
as of right now.
Crystal, you're usually gone, right? And Mike, I know you take off pretty much. So, well, we don't have to discuss it now. I mean, decide now, but just so keep that on our radar. But the February, March, April meetings are all there. And because of holidays, a lot of them are on the 4th Monday. So just keep that in mind, that we do have different dates, but that's what's on the schedule for now. Okay. Any other new business to come up? No, nothing. All right. So just keep in mind, we'll see everybody on the 22nd of February at City Hall. For those of you who haven't been to it, it's a nice ceremony, and particularly so Nick, what this is we are honoring with our preservation awards 2 people who've done quite a bit of work to preserve and restore history in Westfield. So we'll be presenting that on at the mayor's office on the 22nd. All righty. Anything to come forward? No? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved and seconded by Crystal. Was that a way? Good. Okay. I think is this a record for us? Have we done it? I think one another, we had one quick meeting, but wonderful. Thank you so much. So good to see you. Again, we'll have to play it by ear whether we're Zoom in the following months. Do we prefer Zoom or do we like to be in person? How many prefer Zoom? How many prefer in person? Good. Yeah, good. I'm hoping, I would like to be back to in person as well. So hopefully by February we will be. Pete, do you have any thoughts on that? What are commissions doing? Yeah. Good. So why don't we plan for in-person then? Okay, great. Why don't we plan for in-person? And if we have to change that, I'll let you know. Okay. Wonderful. Well, Nick, thank you for joining us. Your insight really was very helpful. I appreciate that. So
You're welcome.
have a good night, everyone. Thanks so much.